I think it's a good moment to jump over to Brandon Aiyuk. The thing that nobody's been talking about lately. The one player that everybody has just been missing.
Who?
Exactly.
I forgot about him.
What is your prediction on how the contract situation will end?
I think they're going to trade him. That's my prediction. I feel like the 49ers are trying to craft the narrative before it happens. Maybe I'm cynical, but I think what they're trying to show is, look, we wanted to keep Brandon. We made every effort to keep Brandon. We made him this offer, that offer. Like, our first, second, and third choice was to keep Brandon. And we took this down to the very end because that's how much we wanted him. He just wouldn't cooperate. He wouldn't play ball. Like he wouldn't negotiate with us. He was unreasonable. We offered him $30+ million a year. He wouldn't take it. And so we have to trade him to Pittsburgh the night before the regular season starts for picks next year. And it's not because we're incompetent. It's because Brandon's difficult. I think that's what they're trying to position them. That's how they're trying to position the whole narrative before it happens. That's my best guess.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any idea, or do you get any sense of when this could all be resolved?
Yeah, like the week before the draft. Last year, Nick Bosa signed his extension 4 days before the season opener. So from Aiyuk's perspective, the Niners just created a precedent, right? Like, if you're patient enough, they'll cave right before the season. So they've given him an offer. He could sign that the night before the season starts. He'll wait until 4 days before the season is here. And I think that's when something will happen. Either an extension will be signed or a trade will be consummated right before the season.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because you said a week before the draft. Did you mean a week before the season starts, or
that's exactly what I meant? English is eluding me right now. The English language. Just thank you very much. I mean, bear with me here. It's like me and Kyle Shanahan. Who is better at speaking, me or him? I don't really know. Maybe Kyle these days. I'm not doing great.
I was listening. I think it was Jacob Cowing was speaking, and it just kind of sounded like a carbon copy of Shanahan.
There were a lot of ums.
Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. I've kind of gotten to a point where I don't need to listen to Shanahan speak to know exactly how the press conference is going to go. He's pretty predictable now. There was that point in time where like nobody knew what was going on with Trey Lance. Nobody knew what was going on, with Jimmy Garoppolo, and like it was kind of interesting. But ever since then, like I'd say everything besides the Aiyuk situation is pretty settled. How do you feel like the 49ers have handled this Brandon Aiyuk situation, though?
I don't think they've handled it well. I feel like, I guess if they extend him right before the season starts, you can't knock him too much because they did the same thing with Bosa last year. It took a long time and it was dramatic, but it ultimately got done. I guess, but like if they trade him right before the season starts, it's like, dude, where did you think this was going? Why didn't you trade him before the draft? Why are you trading him now for picks next year that you hopefully can trade to another team for a player that'll help you now? Like, how did it get to this? It feels like obviously not plan A. It's not what you wanted to happen. And you're trying to salvage a bad situation because you didn't get out in front of it. Like, that's on you. It's been pretty much documented that they could have signed him last year for less. They could have signed him earlier in the offseason for less. They always take a long time. They drag their feet, and I don't know why. And it burned them this year. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I would even add the other issue with kind of dragging your feet on this is you allow other teams to sign a Jalen Waddle or today a CeeDee Lamb, and the price just goes up. So it just feels like as more time goes, is the breaking point just getting stronger and stronger, and like the difference between what the Niners are willing to give up and what Aiyuk is looking for.
Yeah, it's like it seemed like the Niners were trying to take a hard line with Aiyuk. Like, okay, we'll offer you 25 plus. And like that could have got the job done last year. It might have been able, like maybe 27 would have got the job done in April. But they wanted to play hardball, and now in freaking late August, they're scrambling and be like, okay, now we'll offer you $30 million a year. Like you could have done that. It would have got the job done. Now you're doing it like desperately, and it's not enough. So how do you come out of here looking smart? Like all you're gonna do is assassinate Aiyuk's character if he ends up leaving and being like, oh, he was immature. We couldn't do business with him. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not taking sides. All I know is you guys lost if that's what happens. Mm-hmm. Or they could try to make him play on the 5th-year option. I just don't see why he would. I would think he would definitely sit out a few games, I would imagine. I mean, and then whatever the Niners trade offers for Aiyuk were from Pittsburgh or whatever, like go down. Like, oh, we only get him for 15 games instead of 17. Well, here's a second and a 7th. Oh, it's only 14 games? Like just a second, you know? So this is a deadline deal. They have to make up their minds in like 12 days.
I think you bring up a pretty good point on, last year they extended Bosa like literally week 1.
That was an excellent point, not a pretty good point. What are you talking about, Josh?
No, it's excellent. I'm sorry, I didn't get my English degree like you did.
No, that was a phenomenal point.
UCLA's finest.
Pretty good. That sounds like a B- point. Like, what? No, I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
It's always A+ from Grant. If the 49ers cave in,
it's in the contract that I came on the show that he had to say only the nicest things, only the most superlative. Thank you. But we negotiated this before.
Yeah, we talked about every single time that we reference golf, Grant is the second coming of Happy Gilmore and Tiger Woods.
Yeah, the greatest living golfer. That's also in the contract. Do you think David Lombardi's ego is big? You haven't met me yet.
Oh my God. I want to see the debate. I know why he won't do it. I honestly I'm trying to say this in the most respectful way possible. I think he knows that you would make him look very bad in a debate.
Does he? I don't know. I don't think he thinks that way. I think he thinks he would bury me. I think he doesn't want to even I think from his mind, he's like, I'm so much bigger than Grant. Like, I don't want to acknowledge him from his mind.
I definitely think that he thinks that way. Yeah. But what I will say is a lot of the interactions he has are with people on Twitter where he can just ignore when they bring up the times that he's not critical from the team. And if it was like a live debate and you pressed him on something that, he
has nothing to gain from that.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think that's why he wouldn't do it.
Anyway, that's enough of him.
Yeah. We've got A+, Grant, Happy Gilmore, Tiger Woods, Grant starring Happy Gilmore 2, filming this fall. Oh, see, he's already got the club ready.
I got the 9-iron ready just in case. Just in case I need to hit a ball.
So let me reel it in.
Okay.
Let me sink the
Okay, let's talk about it. Football.
If the 49ers cave in and pay Aiyuk what he wants, will this be the new expectation for people looking to get their new contracts next year? Like, does this set a new precedent? Because last year, Bosa was like right before week 1. This Aiyuk thing is dragging on for longer than anybody could have anticipated. Before, I even remember other stars on the team, it would take forever for them to get their contract negotiations. And it was like a thing like, oh, yeah, Parag, they're very good at what they do. They like to offer very minimal offers right up front. How do you feel like this precedent is going to, I guess, change going forward?
Well, I think it's very interesting, and I think the Niners are thinking about this because they did it last year. They caved and made Nick Bosa the highest paid non-quarterback ever at the time, literally 4 days before the season started. All Nick Bosa had to do was say no to every offer and wait patiently and not show up, and the Niners at the very end with their tail between their legs like, okay, here's whatever you want. And Nick was like, thank you, and was like, snatched that shit out of their hands like, yeah, that's what I freaking thought. And so now other players are going to think like, well, if I'm as confident and patient as Nick, and I'm coming off an all-pro season too, can I win this like staring contest? So if Aiyuk wins it the year after Nick wins it, then what's Brock going to do next year? Like, Brock's coming up, and the Niners could offer him $45 million a year, which is good, but not good enough. And Brock could say like, first of all, no. Second of all, like, just talk to me on September 7th. You know what I mean? Like, this negotiation is done, and we'll talk right before the freaking season, like you did with Brandon and Nick. Like, I don't see why a player wouldn't do that, wouldn't wait after the Niners have shown that this is their, like, this is their playbook.
Yeah, why wouldn't they do it? So, in spite of this being, one of the, I guess, craziest contract negotiations that has, been in public domain for the 49ers, there have been other crazy offseason stories in recent memory. I'm wondering if you could pick one that was most distracting to the team between this contract situation with Brandon Aiyuk, Jimmy Garoppolo sort of, it was, I guess, understood that he would not be on the team, and then he was throwing on the side and sort of, stealing the spotlight away from Trey Lance, who was supposed to be the starter. And then I guess last season it was Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold, for the quarterback 2 battle. Which one would you say was most distracting? Or if you want to
Jimmy
rank
Garoppolo throwing on a side field was pretty wild. You're trying to show that you're confident in Trey, and then, like, you're not. So that was, but at the same time, like, there was no amount of confidence they could have shown in Trey that would have, like, put confidence in Trey. I feel like part of the issue with Trey is that he wasn't ready. And, like, that's not just physically, but, like, he couldn't step into a huddle and project confidence as a 21-year-old with limited experience. So that was like a distraction, but it was almost like inevitable when they were trying to give the team to a guy who wasn't developed straight up. So this thing with Aiyuk feels like just as big or bigger and, like, unnecessary. Like, this is hanging over the whole team, the whole season. He's a really important player. It seems like what's happening behind closed doors with him is more important than anything that's happening at practice. And that's purely because the Niners let this happen. Like, it feels like a big distraction that they created that's unnecessary and ultimately isn't going to help them. That's kind of what makes this particular offseason, like, so ominous. Like, at least with Jimmy, it's like, okay, well, they don't know who their quarterback is, but they know they've won with Jimmy. So there's a feeling that even if, like, they go back to him, like, they could at least have a good year in the short term. But with this Aiyuk thing, it's like, is this team falling apart? Like, what is going on? Is this the Super Bowl hangover? Like, it feels way different than what was going on in the past.